Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dakra Black Women Show. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate everybody that comes back every week. So, yeah, today we're celebrating International Women's Day. It was on the 8th of March, but because this show only airs on Saturday, so that's why we're having it today. So we have like a panel. This is my first time ever having like a panel of three important guests, and that's really fantastic for me as a person, as well for my audience watching out there. So, what are we going to be talking about today? The theme for today is break the bias. Break the bias. We all know that the in the world right now, in every aspect of our lives, in marriage, in academics, in career, anything, talk about it, women have always been at the bottom of the ladder. And now we are beginning to talk about, having that conversation about how can we change the narrative. There's all these laws out there. There's different kind of initiatives out there saying, okay, we have to have equal pay for everybody. We have to, women has to do their ideas is equally as important as the men. How can we, break that bias in the community? And now this theme couldn't be any better because it kind of ties into the theme of that Proud Black Women Show, which is moving forward. We have focused on BIPOC for the little while, but now we're also looking into that discrimination against women, in marriages, in career, in anything you want to talk about. So this is why we're having this panel today. And I have three amazing guests, fantastic guests. I have Miss Kemi Oduwole, I have Miss Olayinka Ekenkwo, and I have Miss Tricia Cooper. So yeah, I'm going to, before we go into asking them a little bit about themselves, what they do, and all of that, we're just going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back in a few seconds. Welcome back, everybody. So I'm going to go to Miss Tricia first, and Miss Tricia is she's a registered social worker, and she's very fantastic. I've had her on the show before, and I'm really excited that she accepted to come again this time. And I want to, if you can give us a little bit of a background about you, what you do, and all that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm a registered social worker and I'm a therapist. I love and have found my passion in working with children and families um, who have mental health challenges, but who also need support just navigating the ups and downs of having a family. I'm also a family mediator. And so the challenges of co parenting and, you know, keeping your family together while you're adjusting to it being apart is something that I do and is a passion of mine. But I think my biggest passion right now and what keeps me the busiest is being a mom. I'm a mom of two little ones, and it's a joy to raise them and to see them be the people that I see them becoming. So it's exciting, and I'm excited to be
Right.
here.
Thank you so much. So you're going to be, telling us a little bit more about mental health, because that's also something that a lot of people struggle with, but they're too afraid to come out about it, or they're afraid of what people would say about it, or it will affect their work and things like that. So we'll come back to that later. Thanks for introducing yourself. So I'm going to go to Miss Kemi Oduwole. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invite, Fikemi. My name is Kemi Oduwole. I'm an internationally trained lawyer. I've been practicing law for over 20 years. And I'm also a law professor. In the few years I've been practicing in Canada, about 10 years now, I've veered into different areas of law, family law, mental health, immigration. But now I only concentrate on all aspects of immigration and workplace investigation. But my passion is in mentoring. I believe that your success is determined by the number of people you can lift up. So I devote a lot of my time to mentoring people, not just lawyers, young children. I'm actively involved in all my children's schools and in youth communities in my environment, and also even as lecturer, I invest in the life of my students as well. So that's one great passion that I have.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And I must say, you're doing from everybody before I even met you. A lot of people have talked about, oh, Miss Kemi Oduwole, she's very fantastic. She's a mentor, and I can see that I can testify to that fact because we've had different conversations in the past, and I've learned a lot from you. And I say thank you for what you do. So to Ms. Olayinka Ekenkwo, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and let's let people have a feel of the guest that I've brought today.
Yeah, thank you so much, that black proud woman, for this invite. And when you told me about this panel, I'm like, oh, Miss Kemi Oduwale, of course. I've met her many years back. I think it's up to 10 years now, so
Yeah,
thereabouts.
about 10 years.
And I have not met Miss Tricia Cooper before, but I'm very happy to be on this panel with you today. I'm a lawyer based in Ontario, Canada. I have my own practice in Ajax, Ontario. I practice employment law, real estate, wills and estate, and I'm trying now to go into consent and capacity with the legal aid of Ontario. Because I have a passion for elderly people, women, because I was brought up by my grandmother. Outside the practice, I juggle a whole lot of stuff. I'm a parent of three young adults who have a mind of their own. So trying to guide them, it's to make sure that they're in the right path. It's a whole lot of work for me. Also, I'm a coach. I'm a transformational coach. I I have a passion for young ladies. I have passion for women, and I also run a prayer ministry. Because I believe in the power of the God factor. Prayer goes a long way. So I run a prayer ministry for women, and for anybody who is interested. And I'm an author. I've authored 2 books already. So I'm hoping to bring out more, and a speaker, and a whole lot of stuff that I do just to keep life going.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Amazingly, if you guys want to know more about about all my guests, if you check in the description, their bios are in there. You can read up on it, and then if you want to contact them later, you can also contact them, and they can give you, one or two things that you can use to also better yourself. Because I've had conversations. I've also had relations with all 3 people, and believe me, they are fantastic people. So I'm bringing you the best of the best today. So now, going by the title, which is the theme, which is break the bias, I will go to Ms. Oduwole. What does that mean to you? That hashtag break the bias for the International Women's Day. What does that mean to you?
For me, breaking the bias, I'm even looking at it more from introspect. A lot of people have always been looking at it from the outward of it. Oh, women are biased at work and this, but I am reflecting more on introspect. A lot of times we're biased towards ourselves. We second guess ourselves. It's like we have given ourselves that negative check mark before we go to where we're going. So I believe as women, and that is what I even train. I have 2 young uh, girls too, and I can say they're even mentors for me, because I teach them to occupy space. Where there is no respect, you leave the space. I treat them well, even though they are my children. I respect them. I hear their views. That is how I train them. So women need to break the bias, inward introspect. There is no labeling. I remember there was a time somebody asked me, because I work late a lot, right? And I was just leaving the office maybe about 10:30, 11. And she said, wow, how are you able to do this? Your husband must be very accommodative. And I was wondering, why isn't it the other way? If we're a man that is working late, would you say that? So we need to, for we ourselves, we need to break the bias for ourselves. Gender, roles, setting space. We don't feel guilty. Do you understand? We occupy space as women. I occupy my role. This is my profession. I don't feel guilty because I want to do what I love. I don't feel guilty because I want to be the best in my profession. I don't feel guilty because I enter a room, I'm the only black person. When I have people tell me, oh, I remember I had when I first came to Canada, I had several types of interaction. I migrated to Canada about 11 years ago, thereabouts. And one thing with me is I believe in myself. I am very self-confident, and that has really helped me. You know, just a few months I was somewhere and somebody told me, oh, you have an accent. Where are you from? Oh, I said, I'm Yoruba. He said, what does that mean? I said, that is a language from Nigeria. He said, oh, Nigeria. I know Nigeria in Africa. I said, Africa is a continent, you know. What part of Africa do you know? You know, I turned it around. He said, oh, I know Africa. I said, I'm from West Africa. I said, where are you from? He said, oh, I'm Canadian. I said, I know. What generation are you? How long have you been? Oh, my great grandfather came to Canada. Also, oh, so that's it. I'm the first generation. You are the fourth generation. You know, I turned it around. You know, so that's one thing. We need to break that bias in ourselves first, to allow ourselves occupy space within the family, at the place of work. We should not second guess ourselves. We should not limit ourselves, you know. So that is one important thing that breaking the bias means to me.
That's fantastic. And I like the way you said it, occupy space. I think I need to make it an hashtag. Hashtag occupy space. That makes a lot of sense, because even for a lot of us, we always second guess ourselves. And this is I believe I used to be guilty of that as well, because I feel guilty about a lot of things. And that's because of the way that we've been brought up, especially for a lot of us that are black, a lot of us that were brought up in Africa. You have to always put your husband first. You have to put men first in anything, because they have this bias that if you're more successful than your husband, then you're going to be very proud, you're going to be very arrogant and all of that. So you have to be submissive. You have to put your own like your own growth, you have to put it as a second. You should always be below your husband. You should always be below men in your life. And I think that's really important to know, that you have to look inwards, and you have to try to change that mindset by yourself first, before you expect other people to treat you any different. So I'm going to go to Miss Tricia to also tell us, what does that break the bias means to you as a person?
Thank you so much, and thank you, Miss Oduwali, for just starting the conversation off, because I think what you shared encompasses so much of the work that I do. That individually, women come to me and they're struggling with this sense of identity. Who am I? Right? And how do I silence the voices in my head that get in the way with the things I want to do? Um, and this hashtag, it's important to me, but I struggle with it sometimes because, or this theme, because I don't think the spectrum of women's voices is represented in this breaking the bias. Because I feel like the voices of women, kind of what you referenced to, Miss Odewali, of women who maybe want to stay home and take care of their family, right? And sometimes, breaking the bias for them, right? I feel like, our policies and our social policies don't support workers, right? And who maybe breaking the bias, means they want to stay home, and they don't want to work. They don't want to climb the corporate ladder. And so how does our government support these choices? Even men who want to do this work, right? And so I think breaking the bias, also, the spectrum of voices. I think we need to hear from a wider range of women's voices and women's issues, right? Who, the single parent families, the women led families, right? Who are saying, you know what, I need an income, right? And how do they balance that? How are they supported, right? How do they feel, when they talk to their working women friends, right? And working women climbing the corporate ladder, how are they made to feel sometimes, when maybe they're putting off families, right? Or maybe that's not their value, right? And so I think it's important that, we hear a spectrum of voices in this theme, and that, exactly like you said, Miss Odwali, that we are looking internally to what that means for me. What does breaking the bias mean for you in this moment in your life, and how you occupy that space that's important for you? Because in the work that I do, oftentimes, mental health issues, anxiety, the guilt and shame, right? That so many women experience comes from these challenges of, the social expectations of who they are supposed to be, but really inside who they want to be and who they feel connected to. So I can completely agree with Miss Oduwali, and that's sort of my take on this theme.
That's fantastic. The way you explained your perspective. Also, it's very important that everybody knows what they value, what is important to you. For some people, their ambition is to, climb the corporate ladder. For some people, their ambition in life is to stay home, take care of their kids, make them better people that goes into the society and goes to, change that bias. So in that situation, are they being taken care of? Or are people looking at them as being lazy and they don't want to do anything else but sit at home? But the thing is, even being a stay-at-home mom is a lot of work. I've had situations in life where maybe I'm out of a job and I have to stay home with my kids for a little while. And it's very tasking. Before you know it, you've done so much, and then you have to go pick them back from school, and then you're always busy. It's a full-time job on its own. And then some people will be like, why can't you do this? Because you've been sitting at home all day. No, I've not been sitting at home all day. I've had so much to do, and we're raising people so that they can go into the community and change all this bias that exist out there. So that's also important, to listen to other people, to have. There are also all kinds of intersectionality that goes on, because the bias that I face as someone with an accent, someone that's of African descent, and also someone that is an immigrant might be different from my other counterparts. So there are different voices in there that we have to all capture within that topic of break the bias. So that's really important. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Tricia. So I'm going to go to Ms. Ekenkwo to tell us, what do you think about that team, break the bias? What does it mean to you as a person?
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree from where my co-panelists have taken off from. I love the idea, like I occupy space. I always say that when I enter a room, the environment must change. You know what I mean? Like I have to make sure that my presence is felt, not in an aggressive way, but you can pull me down, like so. I like also what Trisha is bringing, like um the expectation that everyone has to go to the workplace, everyone has to contribute, or the expectation that women are put in a kind of box. So what I want to say is, I'm coming from the perspective of employment, especially here in Canada. Like I've lived in the UK, I worked in the UK, and coming to Canada, I've been in the workplace. I worked in the government in the UK. I had a situation where I was the only black in the whole room, an open space office of about maybe 50 to 60 people. And they would just stand in front of my desk and look at me and like, why is she here? And that was at the beginning, and they had to interview me like 3 times to make sure that I knew my stuff. But by the time I was leaving UK, they actually told me that if you ever come to UK again and you want work, please come back. And I just, so we have to learn. And the way we can break bias is to take our challenges and use it as stepping stone. Because I believe that challenges are opportunities to show who you are, because everybody has a contribution to me. Everybody has value, right? Look, I'm not perfect, but I am God's creation, right? And God doesn't make any mistake. So, and God has a plan for me. So, and like my sister Kemi was saying, it starts with me, really. My mental state. How do I think about myself? What do I think about myself? If you value yourself, it will show in your relationship, in the way you interact with people, and people will value you. Like I've had instances where I've gone to places and they think that I'm going, maybe for instance the courthouse, and they're thinking I'm a legal assistant or something. I don't even bother myself. I just do what I want to do and walk away. I don't have to like, oh, do you know who I am? No, I don't even bother that. And sometimes people call my office and like, I want to speak with the lawyer. Okay, this is she, because oh, are you the lawyer? I'm saying yes, I am. How may I help you? So, but you see, we have a contribution to make, and we can rise above. And I want to speak to the individuals. rise above whatever limitation people want to put on you, or labels or boxes. Because let's take the educational system for example. We see that a lot, like even our phones are changing every second, computers are changing every second, but the educational system remains the same. The curriculum, everything, the structure, everything. What is that? That is like trying to create like slavery. Like the people are tailored towards, oh, you go to school, come out and get a 9 to 5 job. Just you saying to yourself, what can I do for myself? What can I How can I contribute to society? How can I do better? How can I do something for myself? It's part of breaking the bias, because women are expected to go to school or and then go home and stay at home to take care of children. No, raising children is great work. Like I just mentioned to you that I have young adults, but I'm still, working, trying to work on them, and all of that. So it's an unending work, but we just have to start within ourselves, just like my sister herself, and say, I can rise above whatever limitations people want to put on me. I recognize my own value, and I'm going to bring my value. Whether you appreciate it or not doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to make sure that I'm at peace with myself. I'm working in my purpose. I'm breaking every form of, Tricia was talking about identity crisis. The moment you know who you are, and what you have broken the bias. You have broken this. You have broken that ceiling. So it's just for no. So, and it's a gradual process. It's I know for some people it's gradual process. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And talking about raising children, I believe like a lot of these biases have survived this long because of how we raise our children, even as women. Because a lot of times these biases that has been created in us, we also transfer it to our children. When we are raising our children, the guys get to do whatever they want, the boys get to do whatever they want. The ladies have to cook, have to clean, have to stay home. When they go out, they have to be back by 5 p.m. But the boys can go out for like whatever time they can. So I think that it has survived that long because of the way we are raising our children. So talking about that topic, I will go back to Miss Tricia. What do you think about, how we raise our family, and how can we start, breaking that bias from the family unit?
Hmm, hmm. I love this topic, and it's something that's very passionate of mine. And I think as a Black community and Black diaspora, I think we're still figuring it out, right? Because I think the legacy of oppression, the legacy of colonization, I think we're still, at least in my perspective, in my opinion, and the women I speak with, we're still trying to figure out what it means for us now today, breaking some of these cycles that you've mentioned, breaking some of the stereotypes that we've passed on. And it's interesting, in so many of my conversations with women, I hear their voices that they intentionally want to do it different, and yet the models that we have, which are primarily based in, on research of white women, white families, white communities, they don't exactly fit our values, right? So we have these models and all these interventions, of how to do parenting differently, but they don't necessarily fit our values and the amazing things that we have brought from our communities that are so important and so valuable. So I think this is a really important area of research, and it's something that I'm researching. But I think the just the thought, and what I tell a lot of my clients is that the awareness and the thought that you want to do something intentionally different is powerful. And not to underestimate that if you are thinking about, you know what, I want to break this bias for my young boy, and I want to break this bias for my young girl. If you're thinking about that and you're intentionally creating moments to have conversations with your kids, or to model something different for your kids, right? Or to point things out in the media, right? That promote these things in our children, then you are breaking the cycle and you are breaking the bias. But I think we have I think we have a journey ahead of us as a Black community and as a diaspora of how we're going to develop our own systems of breaking this bias, and parenting our children with different ideas, about what I guess gender roles mean, and what working together as a family can look like in our communities.
That's really powerful the way you put it, because at the end of the day, if we don't do anything within the family, because I believe anything going on in the society always start from the family, always start from the
Mm.
family unit. So how are we raising our children? Are we raising them in such a way for them to also be to be aware of all these biases and to be able to walk through it? So for that, I'm going to go to Miss Oduwole, to because you're a parent of young adults. How do you think that that can be fashioned into how you bring people up, like to make sure that they are confident in themselves as ladies, and also as men, to also be more passionate and to be more aware of this bias and be able to work around it and break the bias in the long run?
Yeah, thank you. I think one important thing is our children, where they mirror us. We are like a mirror. They reflect what we teach them when they are young. And they are like a foam. Once you put it in water, it absorbs it and soak it. That is what our children are. For me, I was privileged to be brought up by parents who, though I grew up in Nigeria, they were not traditionalists, especially my dad. He doesn't believe in gender roles, girls. He treats each child as a child should be. Unlike then, where you don't hear the voices of children, if you do something wrong, my dad will sit you down, explain what you have done wrong, even if you are going to meet consequences at the end of the day. He hears your views, what you've done wrong, and you get the consequences for. So that really helped me as well. And it helped me in bringing up my children as well. So one important thing we need to do is we need to make our children aware of who they are. Gender biases, just like Tricia said, we need to let them know what these biases are, and for them to be able to enter space and the roles they have. So one of the things is children are growing up. We should forget the labeling that ballet is for girls.
Mm.
Basketball is for boys. Let them do what they want to do. Give them choice and options of what they want to do. Let engage them, see their interactions. And sometimes as parents, we're very in a rush to help our children out. Sometimes we need to allow them fall, pick them up. I remember when we first came to Canada, we actually landed. We wanted to see whether we liked it or not, or want to stay or want to go back. So we came for like a month or so. So my children were in school and we were the family friend. So we're in a community where there are a lot of immigrant children, and my daughter had been in school for like 2 weeks. So they were on the breakfast table with quite a number of other young children their age. She was about, I think, 7 then. She was about 7 then. So they were on the table, they were talking, children. Then there's a particular boy who was also in our class, and they had an argument, and he said, "Oh, my daughter was saying, oh, I'm in school, I have friends now." And the boy said, "No, you don't have friends." But she said, "I went to lunch with this person." The person said, "Well, he only went to lunch with you because you sat on the same table in class. You share the same table, is not your friend." But she said, "Oh, but this other person went with me, and this other person." Said, "Okay, that means you have just 2 friends." My daughter just looked at him and said, "How many friends do you have?" Proudly on his fingers, he was pointing. I think he counted like 12 people. My daughter said, "How long have you been in Canada?" Boldly he said, "I was born in Canada. I'm 7 years." You know what my daughter said? My daughter said, "Shame on you. I've been in Canada for 2 weeks. I have 3 friends." You can imagine living 7 years. When I was so relieved, so these are kind of children we need to train. When children ask us things, a lot of immigrants, I'm telling you, it's not limited to Africa. By virtue of my work, I work with a lot of immigrants, whether Caribbean, whether Iranian, whether Spanish, we all have this same culture. Children can't speak back to parents. Children can ask questions. We should not train up intimidating children. If you train up children that can ask questions, when they get to school and they are not treated like others, they can't ask questions. When they grow up, they're in a workplace and they're not treated well, they cannot ask questions. We need to train children that even in the family unit, Children can come up to you. Don't say, go and do that. I say, why should I do that? Because I said so, I'm your mom. No. We don't create a dictatorial environment for our children. We really need to learn that. Especially those of us that are immigrants, we should break the bias of our mentality. We should leave it wherever it is. Our children can only excel in this community if they are bold to ask questions. If children know that at home I can ask questions, if at school they are doing something to them or treating them in a different way, they can walk up to their colleagues, walk up to their teachers and say, Miss, you've done this wrong. Miss, you shouldn't have done this. So that is one thing that is very important for us in bringing up our children. We need to allow them to identify themselves, know themselves, and we just need to support them. We don't take over who they are. We are meant to be like a guiding light for them. That is who we are for children. And like Tricia said, it is not one role fits all. It's not as if this is just the solution for everything. And you realize what works for a child does not work for the other child. And I tell my children that a lot. You don't say, oh, because my brother got a phone when he was in grade 6, you have to get until you're in grade 1. No, they know me for that. I treat each child the way I see the child. I give each child the support the child needs, and my children know that. And we have this conversation. Yeah, he's your brother, but when he was this age, he did this. I said, when he was that age, I gave him the support of what he wanted. So if I have a daughter who I know can manage this and needs this support, so if I give this child this thing and this, that is what I know she needs. And we've been able to understand that it's not that mom prefers this person, but mom treats us individually the way we are. So that is very important for us to understand as parents as well.
That is very powerful. That's really because truly, for a lot of us from that are immigrants, the way we're brought up is you cannot ask questions, and that same thing actually follows us into our places of work where you're being oppressed and you cannot push back. That's
Yeah.
really important that we start to think about it. And not only does it affect us, it also affects our children, because the truth is, if you are not intentional about actually breaking that bias, you will also pass on the same thing to your children. You would also tell them, oh, you cannot. I know I've done that a few times when kids ask me questions, I'm like, who are you? When I was in Nigeria, I couldn't ask my parents that. Why are you asking me the same thing? So I'm like, no. But the truth is, you have to intentionally start thinking, you know what? This is not the right way. Maybe that's what is making my life so the way it is right now, where I'm not confident enough to approach issues. So don't let me pass the same thing to my children so that they can be better. They can better than I am, and they can also, be more confident in themselves, in their ability and things like that. They don't have to look for validation elsewhere because they are already validating themselves from within. So that's really important. Now, talking about, because we are all career women here, we are all striving to be the best in our different fields. And for so many of us, we are wearing several hats. So we're authors, we are mentors, we're lawyers, we're therapists, we're all of that. So my question would go to Ms. Ekenkwo as a person that has her own law firm. I've written books. You're a mentor. You're a public speaker. You're a minister. How has that been for you? How has your journey been? How have you been able to, get into all of those different aspects of you, and how have you thrived at it so that people can learn?
I see myself as one. It's not. I do not compartmentalize myself. So everything I do flows into themselves, because I realize that there's more. There was a time in my life. Let me start from there, where um I put myself in a box. I would say I put myself. I won't say somebody, because I always say I take responsibility for my life. I take responsibility for whatever happens to me. So I put myself in a box. But the moment I realize that I don't have to be in a box, I have to be the best expression of who God has made me. And everyone, God has a purpose for every one of us. God has given us gifts, skills, talents, to use for His glory. And we need to cultivate it. We need to work on it. And that's what I strive and to do for myself. Like, it's a continuous work. I believe in personal development. And I don't, I, a lot of people say, well, when you get to a certain age, because I remember when I was studying for my law, and I was having difficulties, like challenges, just going through the process. And then someone said, why are you doing this? Leave it for your children. And like that is to say that when you get to a certain age, you should just, give up. No, I don't believe in giving up. I believe that there's more for me to discover for myself. My life is an adventure and I'm living it and I'm taking an action until I go to the grave. I'll always, find new things about myself, and I will always be the best version of myself every time. I will always strive to be. So in terms of, I guess what you're trying to say is, how do I juggle it? I do just what I need to do, and then at the end of the day, if what I'm not able to accomplish, I leave it for the next day, right? Because when God was creating the world, he said, and the morning and the evening, and God rest day, and then the next day God did something new, right? So God, when God created, and when it got to the end of the day, he said, okay, I'll stop so far. The next day he picked it up, picked up what he was doing and created the what. So that's, with that, I find joy in what I'm doing. With that, I'm not really stressed with that, and because a lot of people say, oh, you do so much, and sometimes some people try to infer that, jack of all trades. But yes, it's talents. God gave people different talents, number of talents. So I use my talent, and I have no apologies for anybody. I just do the best that I can, so that by the time I'm leaving this world, by the time I die, I know that I'm going to die empty. I'm going to die using, to the best of my ability, all that God has put inside of me. So I want to encourage listeners never to put themselves in the box, never to undermine themselves, but to cultivate themselves. You'll be amazed what you will become.
Thank you so much for that. Before we move ahead, I was just going to talk about your book, Scaling the Bar, because this was you were talking about you started studying law later in life. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sorry, what was your question? That I started later in life?
Yeah, you started studying for law, because I know that I've been on one other show where you were talking about law had always been something you wanted to do, but you didn't get the opportunity until later.
Yeah.
And then just now you were talking about how people say, oh, why don't you leave it for your children? And then you finally was able to study, get your law degree, and you even wrote a book about it. So just
Yes.
tell us, why did you write this book and what is it about?
Okay, thank you
First
so
of all,
much for that question.
show us,
Now,
let's see it popping.
this is the book, and I don't know. Just in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you everything about my life, because it's all about my life. So basically, my parents got divorced or separated. I don't know what happened when I was a toddler. So I never saw my dad and my mom. I lived with my grandparents for close to 16 years, and by the time I met my dad, started living with him, we had a conversation as to which career to pursue. And at that time, I was good at school in all subjects, sciences and arts. So I was contemplating, science, but the thought, medicine, nursing, whatever. But the thought of blood, yeah, I'm like, no, no, no. And I was good in reading and all of that too. So I said I was and I was good in math. I taught myself math, actually. I was failing maths in school, and I knew that I needed maths to get out of secondary school, if you know what I mean, those days in Nigeria. And because you have to have math and English. So I started teaching myself math. I came out with an A in math, just teaching myself. So I realized that was when it dawned on me that I can do whatever I put my mind to do. So anyway, long and short, I had a conversation with my dad. I was going to do law, but just before I was going to enter university, my dad passed. And that truncated my dream to go into law school, and it affected my results. So even when I applied to get into law school in Nigeria, I wasn't admitted in any of the universities because my marks was very low. It was a traumatizing thing that happened to my dad, and it affected me. So long and short, I just, in university at that time, just go into any course, and after you change, and I did first year, I couldn't change. I just did that course and finished Russian language. And it was and after that, I had to just look for a job. And that's how I just continued life. From there, got married, had children, tried 2 times to get into law school part-time, but never happened. And got married and forgot about it until I found myself in the UK thinking of a second career. And I was like, I was thinking of what career to do, and I was just discussing with somebody, and he said, why don't you study law? And never discussed with that person. That person doesn't even know my story, not related to me, doesn't know. And that was the light bulb. And I applied to law school in the UK because we were there under the highly skilled migrants program. So I applied, and they took me as an home student, and that was how I started going to university and law school part-time and working part-time. Finished and landed in Canada, and then started the process of equivalency and all of that, settling down for the second time, struggle with children. Now my children are teenagers and all of that, just trying to find life. And eventually, I got my license, and I was in the government, working in the government, and somebody just heard that I was a lawyer, and they interviewed me in a newsletter, and I just gave a brief story, and it went viral in the whole of Ontario because I was working. People were just from all over Ontario were like how inspiring my story was. A lot of people also who came in as lawyers who had been frustrated out of this side. So that was where I said, you know what? I didn't even tell the whole story. I think I need to write a book. So I wrote a book to tell the whole story. That's why I got Scaling the Bar.
That's really fantastic, the way you have put everything together. And the important part about it is you went through all of this in your life and you finally came up on top, but you didn't keep it to yourself, because the thing is, for a lot of people, they don't have those role models to look up to. They don't have those books to read. So, but now you've put your experiences into a book and you put it out there, so you can also encourage other people that it doesn't matter your age, you can achieve what you set your heart to. And that's really noble of you to do. Because I know for some people, they'll be like, okay, scaling the bar, what's the point of it? But the truth is, there's so many people out there that would read this book and it will motivate them to go after their dreams, not necessarily law, whatever it is that they want to go to, and they thought that, oh, I'm too old, or I already have kids and maybe I should leave it for my kids and things like that. They would read your story, they'll be inspired, and that will also propel them to go after their own. So
It's interesting that you said that, because just this week I had two people come into my office. One is a British guy who has a British passport, and he said he's doing a survival job, and he said he's been wanting to do law, and I'm like, go for it. What are you doing? And I asked him his age. He wasn't even up to the age of I was when I started my law school. I said, you know what? Go to the UK. You are a British citizen. You pay, and it takes you maybe 2-3 years. Come back, do this, and in the next 6-7 years, you have a different story. Also, another person came yesterday and said she's a dentist and just doing a totally different job, million survivor job. And I'm like, you have to promise me. And she's also a woman. I said, you have to promise me that that you will become a dentist and you have your own practice in this country. And I told her, look, if I tell you my story, and that's why I say that my work flows into the other. I become a minister, and I become a coach, and I become, a lawyer and all of that. So yeah, I just said I will just mention that.
That is fantastic. So I'm going to go to Miss Tricia now to just talk about, what challenges that you faced when you were going to start your career. Like, was it easy peasy, or were there challenges along the way? And if you can share some of them with us. Did you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think she's frozen.
Oh, okay. Okay, then. While we're waiting, I think I'll just go to Ms. Oduwole to tell us what your journey was to your career path and all of that. Were there challenges, and how were you able to overcome the challenges?
My career path is in 2 stages. I started my career before relocating to Canada. The truth for us that we need to know as racialized people is that even within your own people, there could be biases and discrimination. So it's very important for us to know that there could be biases and discrimination even within your own people. I faced a lot of that too, joining the legal profession, especially as a woman. When I first started, there was not a lot of encouragement to go into litigation. I loved the litigation a lot, and I still practice litigation. So there was not enough support for that. But coming to Canada was a different ball game entirely. You are here with 2 master's degrees, and you can't seem to get job anywhere. It was really challenging. But one of the things that made way for me is mentorship. I had understood the importance of that and had leveraged on that. So when I was called, I went to the federal court to observe lawyers that I see, that I admire. I walk up to them. Like I told you, I mean, for me, if they say no, that's the end of it. It's not written on my head. So I'm not afraid of taking chances. So I just walk up to them. I'm newly called. I like what I heard today. Can I meet with you for coffee? Can I come to you if I have help? Some were willing to help. They didn't have the time. Some is not their forte, but I was fortunate to have quite a number that lifted me, that assisted me, so that made it easy for me. I was able to discuss with them, they guided my career path. I remember one of the few people I went to meet who I work with, we went to partnership together now. When you first come, I have like 4 types of resumes, so I went to him. I was looking for a job of a legal assistant. He saw the resume. He said, can you show me your original resume? I showed him another one. He looked at me and said, I don't think this would be your real resume. What are your qualifications back home? I told him. He now sat me down and he asked me, he said, what do you really want to do? And one thing I want our viewers to know as well is that having a second chance gives you the opportunity also to explore others. We should not have that seal that because I'm a lawyer back home, everybody expects that if I relocate and I don't go into that profession, probably I'm a failure and I want to go into it. Sometimes you discover another part of yourself and you want to do something else. That is allowed as well, so far as you are occupying space and doing what makes you happy. And he advised me. He said, what do I have I started the licensing process and all that? He advised me. He told me what to do. Don't bother with survival jobs. If you can have funds to sustain yourself, concentrate on it. He shared his experience with me, and those are things that helped me. But I experienced quite a number of obstacles as well, where you have gone for interviews and you mentioned the school you go to and qualification, and it's like, what is that? What does that mean? But a lot of times I call people out. I tell them law is a transferable skills. The subject matter of where I'm coming from with this place is almost 75% the same foundational British law. So I call them out. So all I need to learn, the basic skill of a lawyer is transferable in any jurisdiction. All you need to learn is the subject matter. But I've come across some challenges in practice, from colleagues, even from people on the bench. But one thing I've realized is that sometimes there's an unconscious bias. There are people who deliberately look down at you because of your color or because of your sex. But sometimes it's unconscious. They themselves don't even know because it's what has been ingrained in them. You can't see a Black woman and expect her to be a lawyer, just like Yinka had shared with us. I remember my first time at a courthouse. I went for a family law matter. I had my lawyer's pilot case. I was in my jacket and I checked the roster. I saw where I was, but I didn't know where the room is. So I went to the registry. There were quite a number of people there. So the lady who was there just said, because there are too many people in the room, she said she wants just counsels in the room. Everybody should leave. So a lot of people left and I stood there. And she was looking at me and said, counsels are the only ones I want here. She said it a third time again. And I had to look back, because I couldn't believe she was talking to me. I was in a suit. I had a pilot case, I mean, that's, if nothing else, that tells you this is a lawyer. I had people who were standing beside me. They were not even dressed like lawyers, just shirt and trousers. She didn't address them. So at that point, I just looked her in the face and I said, excuse me, were you referring to me? Are you asking me to step out? Immediately I called that out. She said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I was not referring to you. I was not referring to you, So, those are subtle things you've seen. But one important thing is you call people out, let them realize that. And sometimes it's just unfortunate that you have to be above board. Just like Inka was sharing with us in UK, that when they saw the stuff she was made up of, the respect is given to you. So you just need an opportunity to occupy that space, and people would know that you know the stuff you are made up of. So those are mentorship has worked for me a lot, and ability to be able to prove myself had worked a lot. But one thing I also want to say is, as women, we should also help ourselves. As racialized people, we should help ourselves. There is a lot of intra-racist bias where you have people who say, "Oh, I would rather prefer these people to go to as my lawyers, my dentists, as my doctors." When we see job opportunities, because we need to occupy space, right? We need to help ourselves. Where there are job opportunities, you have somebody going for interview, seek the person that I'm an employer. If I have people who come to me, I have an interview, I chat with them. I know what I want. When I want to employ people, I know what people will look out for. So we need also to help people to get to that space. So that is how we can collectively be successful as women and as racialized people generally. So
That is fantastic, and I found that hilarious. The part where the as I said, you have to step out. That's funny because why would you think that because I'm black, then I wouldn't have achieved that level of success? It's funny where people do that, but I like the way that you said you have to always address that, because some people will be, you know, not confident enough to address it because they don't want that to affect them or whatever. That's really important, that you always have to address that. You have to be confident enough to speak up, and that's really important. So now I'm going to go back to Miss Cooper to ask a different question now, because you already gave us enough. So in in the mental health space, for so many women, we're dealing with a lot. We need help, but we're so concerned about what people would say. What are they going to think? I'm crazy? Are they going to think I'm already mad, or things like that? They're just, or are people going to think I am I going to be disappointing my children, that I'm not good enough to take care of them without asking for mental health assistance? So for you in your career as a mental health therapist and things like that, how do you think that we can approach this, especially for a lot of us that it is not culturally, usually when you're suffering, you have to suffer in silence because you don't want to stigmatize, you don't want to stigmatize yourself, first of all. At the same time, you don't want people to know what's going on in your marriage. You don't want other people to know what's going on in your household, just basically. So in your experience, what do you think? How can we approach that, especially among in the midst of Black women and women in general?
Thank you. Thank you. Such an important question. And I think it's interesting. It's connected to the previous question, which was my journey to this career, was kind of the fact that as a child of immigrant parents, nobody was talking about these experiences. And so, there was this just be a doctor and just be a lawyer. No disrespect to the esteemed lawyers, right? But just be these things and you'll be successful. But anything else that had to do with maybe psychology or understanding the human emotion or the impact or talking about things, people were like, what does that mean in my community, right? What are you really going to do? um, and so addressing the stigma in our community, that I think is so important by normalizing, the fact that this is hard, that breaking the bias can sometimes really take a toll on our mood, um, and supporting each other with that, right? Sometimes, the statements that we share with each other in our communities, it's kind of like a shake it off, just shake it off and keep going sort of mentality, right? Which I understand as people who are striving and who have to break biases. Sometimes that's how we get through, and sometimes that's how we survive. But if we can, bring people, and I like what Miss Oduwali said about mentorship. If we can mentor other women, children, right, other professionals in the field, and just acknowledge that sometimes you're going to need some emotional help because these things can take a toll on, right, your identity, those thoughts that you're saying to yourself over and over and over again. And sometimes it's not enough just to shake it off, right? Sometimes you got to go through and you got to heal a bit emotionally by talking about your feelings, by identifying those feelings. So I think a lot of the work I do, especially with racialized communities of all different races, is to normalize that this feels really difficult sometimes. That emotionally, sometimes we need to cry. Sometimes we are angry, right? And we haven't always learned healthy ways to express these emotions or to cope with these emotions, right? We've learned a lot of ways of how to bury them. We learned a lot of ways of just how to fake it so that we can make it, right? Make it for our children, make it for that job. Um, and there hasn't been a lot of space for us, especially as Black women, right? We're always deemed as angry and emotional, right? And people don't recognize that comes from a place of not having a safe space to have any other emotion, right? Not having a safe space to be vulnerable, right? What happens when Black women especially, can be vulnerable with their husbands, can be vulnerable with their partners, with their employers, and not worry about their livelihood, not worry about their reputation, right? I think it can really change things. So I think a lot of the work that we can do in our communities is just to engage in mentorship, and mentorship that talks about the emotional journey as well, right? And that provides a safe place to talk about how hard it is sometimes, right? To cry about it, or to, be angry about it, and just to have a safe space to do that. And sometimes that's all therapy is, right? A safe place where women and individuals can feel like they can articulate those emotions without bias, without judgment, and they can actually feel them and express them, and not shove them down, so that you never get an opportunity to learn your ways of coping with them, because we all have different ways and different skills and different gifts of how we cope with these feelings. um, and so I think addressing that stigma, right, by normalizing that it's okay when you're down, and I'm not going to judge you, but I'm going to be beside you to lift you up and to support you, to pray for you, to tell you, share you with you my story, right? So that you can get a little bit of strength to get through. I think is so important when we talk about mental health, mental illness, and breaking the biases of that in our communities.
That's really that's fantastic, because for so many people we just find that some people don't even know that they're depressed, because
Mhm.
it's not something that is being talked about in the African community, in the Black community. It's not something that's been talked about. The only things we know are when you're actually raving mad and you're like on the street. So people don't really understand what it means to have mental health issues. So and then because of the stigma around it, they're not willing to admit that they have problems. They want to solve everything by themselves, and which makes it a lot more difficult, because the truth is, so many times you can't do it by yourself. You
Mhm.
cannot do it by yourself. So it makes you end up staying in an abusive relationship. Especially, for example, when we talk about the pandemic, a lot of people have had to stay home and work from home. And before then, they always spent maybe 18 hours outside their home, 16 hours outside. So they don't really know their partner that well. But now that they have to coexist in the same space and work from home, they've had to endure a lot of abuses, a lot of not necessarily physical abuses, but mental abuse and things like that. And because of that, that stigma of, you don't tell people what happens in your marriage, you don't tell people what happens in your household. They keep it to themselves and they remain in these situations and they continue to suffer. So, just as a follow-up question, in those kind of situations, how can we, help people if we're noticing this kind of things? Because usually they are in denial. How are we able to, give them some assistance?
Mm-hmm. I think that's such a great question. And I think it comes from, the language that we use with individuals, and how we make ourselves available, right? And I think, sometimes we see this, very quickly with young children, how, children, they can pick up very quickly if someone is kind of genuinely caring for them, right? Genuinely kind of, you know, and if it's not, you'll say, children say, I don't like that person. I don't feel safe with that person. Like, we see children do that. And so we have to recognize that we still have that skill in us. And so as adults, often when we want to engage with children, when we want them to feel comfortable and supported, we do certain things, right? We engage in listening, right? You know, we change our tones of voice, we get down to their level, right? And so I think it becomes often the initiative of the people who are well, the initiative of the people who see someone suffering, to create a safe space where people can you know, engage in relationship, right? A safe relationship with our sisters, with our brothers, with our community, can be the number one prevention of people staying in abusive and suffering situations, because they have a safe person to go to, right? If people often always feel like, if I tell someone that something's going on in my marriage, they're going to judge me. They're going to think that I'm doing something wrong, and then I'm going to be blocked from this, or everyone's going to start talking about me, or everyone's going to think I'm not, you know, I'm not the perfect wife or husband or mom that I'm supposed to be. Um, if we continue that narrative, and if we, you know, feed into those spaces, then people are going to continue to suffer in silence. So I think it's about creating relationships, right? And even like this forum, I think, Kemi, where women are able to talk about what it's been like for them, and normalize, right, the challenges, normalize how hard it is, and you know, encourage each other to to say that it's okay if you fall down, right? That I'm not going to judge you, right? That I'm going to be supportive of you, right? I think it's also important to put out information, because like you said, Fikemi, people don't know that they're even depressed. People don't know the signs. People don't know the symptoms. People don't even know that something is maybe abuse. And so I think having intentional trainings or workshops or conversations that highlight, these are the signs, right? You know, you're not just tired all the time, right? And I think a lot of times in our communities, sometimes our symptoms become, you know, things we just say, I'm so tired, I'm just so tired, right? When there's some other emotional things that might be going on, that we're not in touch with as a community, in terms of what these symptoms might mean, right? Chronic fatigue, you know, a lack of wanting to engage in social activities, right? Or you know, and or even anxiety, and a heightened sense of stress, and not being able to cope with it anymore. Um, so I think, you know, having forums like this, and you know, even conversations in our family, where we're really talking about what the symptoms are, what it looks like, and giving people the words, like, you're not just crazy, right? You're depressed, right? And you're not just, you know, stressed out, right? You're experiencing symptoms of anxiety. And I think that that education can go a long way, as well, but works best in a safe space where we've developed really safe and good mentoring relationships with each other.
That's thank you so much for putting that out there. And as we've talked through all throughout this session, we've been talking about mentorship, and it's very important to have those mentors out there that can actually assist you. And the thing is, mentors will not just come knocking on your door. You have to make an effort by yourself as well to approach them, and it has to be a symbiotic relationship as well. Because for a lot of people, it's more like, okay, I want, but how about you checking up on your mentor as well? Sometimes you, without needing something, you could also call them up and say, oh, I just wanted to check up on you today. How are you doing? Sometimes they also appreciate that. So that's really important. Stop thinking about what I want to get from this person, but how can we both, uh, rely on one another in times of stress, in times of, when I've gone to work all day, I'm all stressed. But yeah, my mentor also might need that kind of support where I'm just checking up on them every once in a while. So it's really important. Now I'm going to go to Ms. Ekenkwo to just talk. This is just for a lot of people, they say, "Oh, I don't have role models. Oh, I've never really seen a lot of Black role models out there and things like that." For you, do you have a particular mentor or role model that has inspired you, throughout your journey?
Oh, I have several. I have several actually, and some of them I don't know them personally, but I study them. I follow them on LinkedIn. Follow them on their website. And all of that. Some of them I have, like you mentioned, reached out to them, right? And some that are my role model, and I reached out to them, and just like Kemi said, probably they're busy. They did not really quite respond the way I wanted them to respond. It's okay. I still continue to, to go to those who give me audience, and I learn from them. And the truth is that a role model could be someone younger, could should be your colleague, someone lateral, it could be someone on top. So I don't discriminate against, like, if you're younger than me, or even, and I like something about you, I will approach you to learn more about it. If you're my colleague, I'll approach you if you're hired. It's just, and I keep, like I mentioned, I love to learn, and I love in personal development. I keep at it. And if you have a book and I really, really am interested in knowing, I know that something, you must have dropped some nuggets in your book, I'll pick up your book and read it. So you don't you uh, we kind of put mentorship too much in that you have to have one-on-one really contact with the person. It can be, I have mentors on YouTube that are mentoring me, right? They don't even know me, like, so that's what I'm just trying to say, that get out of that idea that it has to be one-on-one or face-to-face and all of that, or you have to meet the person. But as much as possible, I encourage that we all have people who guide us, who we can always run to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of, what do you think about it, and all of that. And it really does help, either in the workplace, or outside the workplace, in your community. And like, I think it was mentioned, Kemi, that mentioned also, don't put yourself in just, oh, it's only these people, the Black community. Go reach out to other people in other communities. You'll be amazed. You learn about their culture as well. You learn about their values. You broaden your circle of influence, right? And you get to know more people. Got to know, and you just broaden your horizon by doing that. I encourage people to do that. And the workplace provides us with so many people, like you. That's why you don't just follow those that look like you alone. Even in the workplace, go for lunch with only those that look like you. Sometimes you have to butt into conversations and say, "Hey guys," and try to say, "Oh, you have to just get out, break every." And the truth is that when I was with the government, because of doing that, a lot of people got to learn more about me, got to learn more that, oh, because a lot of people, they, first and foremost, they think Africa is a country. Two, they've never traveled out of Canada. They don't even know that the world is bigger. There's a whole world out there. And then because of what they see on TV, they see only the bad side of Africa. They are dirty, they are hungry, they are suffering. So I use it as an opportunity to educate. Like, look, and the fact that I went to a school that you don't know about doesn't mean that that school is substandard because you studied in Canada and all of that. So we have a lot of work to do. And I want to use this opportunity to say, look, if you're going through stuff, especially in the workplace, don't be quiet. Just taking, like, Tricia was talking about, shaking it off. If something is going on in your workplace, you need to first know what the policies are in your workplace, know where you need to go to get help. Like, even the mental health, they have mental health facilities in workplaces. Is it, they call it employee assistant programs that you can use, and some of them are even free. And you can look at the policy. What are your rights in your workplace? What are your responsibilities? Don't suffer in silence. Like, I did that for a while, and I was going through, harassment and all of that, until I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I need to advocate for myself. How am I going to advocate for anybody? I have to, make a complaint. And it changed. It changed it not just for me, for others in the section, and for those coming after me as well. That we need to don't put ourselves in the box. That's what I just wanted to say in short.
Thank you so much. So as we round up, I'm just gonna ask everybody, uh, in your dealings, in your experience, and things like that. How do you think that we can continue to break the bias like that? What would be your final word for today? I'm going to go to Ms. Oduwole first. How do we break that bias, and what's your final word for today?
My final word for today is first discover who you are. Discover who you are. Ensure you are happy. You have permission to be happy. Um, Ensure you fulfill purpose. Like Tricia said, acknowledge it's okay not to be okay, right? If you are not feeling well, you are having the acknowledge is okay not to be okay. If you need to seek help, you need to get any help you need to get. It's important you do that. And don't sit on tables where respect is not served to you. In anywhere, your personal relationship, family relationship, with friends, at the workplace, where you don't get respect, don't sit in those places. And be happy with yourself. Learn to be happy with yourselves. Don't blame yourself in whatever role, as a wife, as a mother, as a professional, whatever you need to do. Learn to love yourself and don't play the blame game. Once you do that, you break the glass, the ceiling for yourself. Nobody can put you in a box. So that's one important thing I've realized. Once you have that self-confidence, you forgive yourself for whatever. Like I've always learned that, especially when my children were young, I pick my battles, especially those of us that have young children. You want your house to be clean 24/7. They're children, for God's sake. Honestly, I have my children's play area. I have my area for my mentality. I always have an area for my children, and I have time for them to set it up. So when they put the place upside down, I don't mind. I pick my battles. When they do some things, there are some things I don't care. There are some things I know this is the line I don't want to draw. So we need to do those things for ourselves to take care of ourselves. But the most important thing I just want to do is discover yourself and take care of yourself. That's the most important thing. Once you break that bias and break that glass, nobody can put you in a box.
That's fantastic. Don't sit on table where respect is not being served. I love that. That's really important. And I'm going to take that with me. So I'm going to go to Miss Cooper. What is your final word for people watching us today?
I think for today, I just want to acknowledge that breaking the bias is hard work. And, I love all these pictures where people are just crossing their X's and smiling and making it seem like it's a dance, this lovely floating dance, but it is hard work. And so I just want to put out there that that this is a fight that so many of us face every day, and it takes a toll on our physical health, it takes a toll on our mental health. So sometimes if you have to step back, you don't always have to be the one at the front lines of breaking the bias. Sometimes, I just like Miss Oduwali said, step away. You can step away from the fight. You can step away from the breaking to take care of yourself, because it's hard work. And, and it's a daily fight. Some of us wake up and our very first thought is, how am I going to face that employer? How am I going to face that partner? And we're literally, either engaged in trauma or engaged in active abuse or harassment, and we're trying to figure out our way through. So um, as you break the bias, take care of yourself, recognize that it's hard work, and you're not expected to smile your way through it, without like Miss Ekenkwo, am I saying that right? I'm so sorry, shared, without feeling like like you have to shake it off all the time. Remember that it's hard work, and you need to take care of yourself when you're breaking that bias. It's tough, and we still have a long way to go.
That's fantastic. Always remember to take care of yourself first. You don't always have to be at the forefront. That's really important. Thank you for sharing that. And last but not the least, Ms. Ekenkwo, what is your final words for us today?
My final words will be recognize your value. You are valuable and then you have a contribution to make, either to yourself or to your family or to the community. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be, you have a contribution, you have something to, and life is an adventure. So go out and have don't put like don't put yourself in a space where you're just miserable all the time. Go out outside the nature, go out, treat yourself, value yourself. And the minute you start doing that, you find out that people around you will begin to value you even more. So value yourself, and I want to say that strive for your dreams, strive for your dreams no matter the circumstances, go after whatever you desire. You can be whoever you want to be. Like if I was a personal assistant to a managing director in Nigeria as a graduate for years, then moved on to HR, and then evolved to become a lawyer in Canada and to have my own practice, be my own employer. So I think if I could do it, anybody can. Like you can be who you want to be. Go after your dreams, and keep striving to serve your highest purpose. Everybody has a purpose to fulfill. I know it cannot be easy, but that's what you can change
I think you frozen.
challenges, and you keep working on yourself,
I
and
think your
you'll be
internet is
amazed.
having some issues.
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
be
Okay.
difficult,
Can you
but
hear us, Ms. Ekenkwo?
it's
Okay, I think the internet has some issues. So, but just in the light of this was a very fantastic session. I really appreciated that I called on you and you answered. I'm so excited. This was I can't even believe it's more than an hour already. This was a fantastic session, and I'm sure a lot of people. You can share the links out. To other people, they can watch the replay and they would be able to learn a thing or two from this session because it was really powerful. The thing is, there's so many issues when we start to talk about breaking the bias in every field. There's so many things, and if we decide to sit here today, we won't be able to end in maybe 10 hours or 15 hours. So there's so many aspects to it. There's mental health. There's domestic violence. There's harassment at work, discrimination. There's even personal convictions as well, mental health, so many things, so many aspects of it. And we cannot touch up on all of this, but the little ones that we've been able to touch up on, it's really fantastic that we had that time to dissect it and to talk about it. Sorry, we lost you for a minute. I think it was internet issues. So if you want to just round up before we leave.
No, I think I actually finished saying, I'm just saying that, no matter how there the circumstances may appear, that we can rise above them, and with the help of people like Tricia, who are helping mental health, you know, professionals, with the help of your mentors, your people around you, and you just try to enjoy your life. That you can be the best version of yourself.
That's really important. Thank you so much for that. And I know that you authored two books. If you want to tell us where the titles, show us the title and then where people can go get them.
Okay, my first book really is Are You an Asset or a Liability? This is when the light bulb came in my head that look, I am my own, I have to take responsibility, no blaming, no complaining. I just take up responsibility of my life and figure out how I'm going to get my life. And it's very good for, I kind of target it towards the youth, because it's better to know that these things when you're younger. And then my second book is Scaling the Bar, and they are all both on Amazon, or or if you just Google my name, you'll find my website, and really it will lead you to where you can find the books.
Thank you so much. And this was an amazing time. I really appreciated everybody for coming. And for those that have joined us, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you, Miriam Waheed Oluwaseun. Thank you, Extra Steps CEO, for joining. And thank you, Chris A, for joining as well. For so many people, I always tell you, when you come to join us, you always have to leave a comment. So that way I'm able to appreciate you. I know who attends, and, we mark attendance on the show. This has been a fantastic time. I will give you back the rest of your Saturday. I know I've taken more than an hour, but I appreciate you and see you next time.
Thank you. It was a